All right, so I want to talk about a question that we often get from agents that we coach, which is, hey, when do I hire an inside sales agent or an ISA to start making phone calls on my behalf? And this is a really important question to answer. And I'm going to start this off, Ben, in this conversation, this podcast off by saying this. Here's the wrong time to do it. Here's the wrong reason to do it. You don't hire an inside sales agent or an ISA to make calls on your behalf because either you're not good at it or you're not doing it and you're looking to have somebody else do the quote unquote dirty work. That is not when or how, or you should hire an ISA because, and then we'll talk about the path and when to do this. You should hire an ISA because you're so good at outbound prospecting that there's only so much time in the day that you're looking to double down on what is already working. And so there's a lot of nuance behind why I say what I say, but that's my initial thought. And then let's get into what would your answer be?
You need to build the muscle first. You need to prove that you can do it just like you described. And then once you are so good at it, then you're delegating a piece of it where somebody can do it 80% as good as you. So you win back time or you can multiply your efforts.
So true. Because the reason why I wanted to make this I think that we wanted to make this podcast episode was we see so many agents doing it for the wrong reasons, which is what I just explained. We see agents thinking, ooh, I can have an outbound lead generation business and not have to make these calls. Let's do that. And it never works. It's a matter of time before they're like, oh, I can't do, like they just cancel whatever the ISA, they fire the ISA, they cancel the company they're using to do the calls because they don't understand how to make it work themselves. So now that we got that out of the way, right? You're not hiring an ISA because you're not good at it and you want somebody to do it for you. That's not what we're talking about. Now, my viewpoint on this, Ben, is answering the question when you would want to hire an ISA is after you have an assistant. Because here's the thing, you want to stay as close to the revenue as possible, and no one's going to be as good as this activity as you are. So you said it just a minute ago. You want to continue to do the thing that generates the most income for you as long as possible. And so my opinion and my experience through my own business and through coaching thousands of real estate agents, it makes more sense for you to max out as much time as you can in this activity of outbound prospecting, setting appointments, going on appointments, taking listings, and making money. Once you've maxed that out and you're like, this is the most I can do. Maybe that's 40, 50 deals a year. And you're like, dude, I'm maxed. I'm working 6.5 days a week. I'm very efficient. The next move would be to hire an assistant, an executive assistant, probably get them licensed so you can delegate all non-sales, non-revenue generating activities, which should, to your point, buy you back a bunch of time. Now, that's not time for, waste. That's time for you to do more of what makes you a lot of money. So that should be able to buy you back, a lot of time to do exactly more of the activity of prospecting, setting appointments, going on appointments, taking listings, and now you're making even more money. After that, the next piece of leverage is to double down on the daily contacts that you're making. That's when I believe it makes sense to hire an ISA. What do you believe?
I think people have this belief that they can pay somebody a small fee and all of a sudden they're going to do something better than you are doing it. And one of the hardest things in the business to do, which is outbound, and you think you can pay somebody a fraction and then you'll get all the benefit. And it's just not a reality. So like you've got to do it and you've got to be willing to do it. And then once you do get that leverage back and you double down on it and then you run out of time again, now you can have somebody step in and help you with a piece, like I said earlier, of the process. And that's what we can go into.
Yeah, great point. And the piece that I think you're referring to, at least from my viewpoint, would be that you hire an ISA to make contacts that you're never going to make. So to me, this makes sense for them to focus on higher up the funnel type of conversation. So like some circle prospecting, would be a great thing to have them do. Because as you're focusing on leads that have a shorter conversion cycle, that require a higher level of skill, this is a major, major mistake. Somebody hires an ISA and they put that ISA, their first order of business, they start having them call expireds and for sale by owners. It's like you're setting that ISA up for failure. That needs to be what you handle as the surgeon of the team. You're doing that work that requires the highest level of skill so that you can continue to grow your business while the is bringing in business that otherwise you would have never had. And that's what you mean by helping with pieces of outbound prospecting, correct?
That's right. And on those types of lead sources, their job is to, because there's a ton of leads in that pool that they're working, is to shake the tree and identify people that might be a blue gumball and say, hey, Brandon, here's one for you. You might want to spend your time, so that when you are making those calls, which you're going to do anyway, you have a refined list of a more of like a nurture or a pipeline type of lead, right?
100%.
So you don't have to go through the millions of people. Now you've got a shorter list to comb through, which will make your, conversion numbers go up because somebody's pre-sorted it for you.
Yeah, great point, Ben. So that's exactly right. The whole idea when you do hire an ISA is you're hiring them as an additional lead generation strategy. Lead generation, not appointment generation, lead generation, which means that your activity, your responsibility as the real estate agent who has an ISA or multiple ISAs that work for you, it's a lead follow-up game. So now when you come in, your ISA has generated 2 or 3 leads. You're not having to make that call for the first time. It's a lead follow-up conversation. And then your job is to convert that into an actual appointment. That's another huge mistake that we see is agents feel like, I'm hiring this ISA, they should be setting me appointments, right? That's not how it works. It can happen from time to time, but I wouldn't hang my hat on that's the process in which I'm going to follow. Their job is to do exactly what you said, Ben, is to shake the tree, go out there and communicate with people that the rainmaker doesn't have time to go and talk to because they're focused on bottom of funnel business, converting that now, while the ISA can spend 40 hours a week shaking the tree and finding really good sellers in the marketplace that the rainmaker would have never found on their own.
And here's another little tip or tool of how I've used it in the past is just to confirm that it's the right person and it's the right phone number, right? Because just if I know I'm going to call that list and I've got the right people on the list, now I know I'm using my time super wisely. Even if they just hear a voicemail and they give me a green check on that person, it's like I've got the right person to call.
It's a great point. There's actually, it's so funny. You and I talked about that before. There's companies that do just that, right? Because the thing with outbound prospecting, it's easy to say it's a numbers game, which it is. And so if you're going to put the time, energy, and effort into this activity, it's like if you call an unscrubbed list and your contact rate's a lot lower than having a scrub list of people who have already talked to them before, verified. At least it's the right number, to your point. Now, we're not saying that's what you're going to do with your ISA. We're saying that's worst case scenario, right? This number is correct. Bob Smith is at this address. He still owns it. What we're talking about is your ISA having a conversation, keeping it super high level, right? And all the ISA's job is to do is find out, is this person interested at selling their property in the next 6 to 12 months? That's it. Once we have that data, the goal is to then get that into our playmaker, of our scorer, of the rainmaker, the person who has all the skills, right? I want to get that to you, Ben, as quickly as possible so that you can do your thing that you're so good at, which is following up, setting appointments, and converting the client into a new client, or enrolling the person as a new client.